The automatic doors of Harborview General slammed open just after midnight, and the metallic clang cut through the quiet hum of the emergency wing like gunfire. 2 military police officers rushed in first, boots sliding across the polished floor, faces taut with urgency. Between them, strapped to a gurney, was a K9, muscle taut, fur soaked dark with blood, chest heaving in shallow, pained breaths. No one touched him. Not the paramedics, not the nurses, not even the veteran vet who had seen hundreds of working dogs. Teeth flashed, eyes cold and calculating, every movement measured. He wasn't panicked. He was angry, focused, and guarding something, or someone, lost. Easy, a nurse whispered, stepping closer. The dog lunged, air snapping around his jaws. The nurse stumbled back, heart hammering, more surprised than hurt. The room went still. A senior physician glanced at the monitors and muttered under her breath. Blood pressure dropping. Heart rate unstable. Shock setting in. We can't save him like this, she said, voice low. The MPs pressed close to the wall, uncertain. His handler? Someone asked quietly. Kia, one officer said finally. Hours ago. The weight of the loss hung in the air, heavier than the smell of blood and antiseptic. The dog's chest vibrated. Not with growls, not with panic, but with controlled fury. They were preparing sedatives. Restraints. The plan was to force him under. No one expected him to survive it. Eva stood near the supply counter, unnoticed, hands wrapped around a tray she hadn't been asked to bring. New, fresh scrubs. Badge still marked RN orientation. She wasn't supposed to matter here, and yet, somehow, she did. She watched, quietly. She noticed how the dog's eyes followed hands, not faces, how he never tried to run, only positioned himself so that no one could get behind him, how he reacted strongest to gloves and Velcro and syringes, the tools of the people trying to save him. He's not attacking, Eva said softly, almost to herself. No one heard. Rookie, step back, a senior nurse snapped. This isn't your call. Eva obeyed, physically, but her gaze never left the dog. Attempts to cover wounds, coax, and calm him failed. Each approach was met with teeth, growls, or stiffened muscle. Blood continued to seep, a dark line spreading across the gurney. Sedate, someone said, now. The dog's low, broken howl cut through the room, a sound that carried grief and warning, sharper than any command. Eva noticed a marking, faint under dried fur in his ear, a sequence of numbers, worn, old, almost invisible. Something military. Something familiar. Without thinking, she moved. Past carts, under arms, kneeling just outside his reach. No sudden moves, no voice raised. She didn't touch him. She didn't try to soothe. She spoke 6 quiet words, precise, meant for a unit most in the room hadn't heard of. The dog froze. The air shifted. The monitors, the people, the alarms, all faded. Time slowed. For the first time, the didn't hear panic. They heard something else. Trust. Eva didn't celebrate. She nodded once, just a small acknowledgement of permission. Saline, she said, voice calm, suction, no sedation. The vet hesitated. He won't let me work. He will, Eva said simply, if you don't rush him. The dog lay still, eyes never leaving hers. Seconds stretched. Minutes became eternity. And then a voice cut through the room with cold authority. Who authorized her to take over this case? The room froze. Not from fear, but from recognition. Something had changed. Eva didn't look up. She didn't need to. Her hands stayed light, precise, grounding him in a way the rest of the room hadn't managed. His breathing slowed, not calm, not safe, but present. Step aside, she whispered, and the room did. It was the first small victory of the night, though no one outside that bay would know, and yet, something in the air told everyone here. Tonight, no one would forget this nurse. The K9's eyes, fierce, loyal, and raw with loss, stayed locked on hers, and somewhere deep, Eva knew, the night had only just begun. The room never fully settled. Machines beeped, monitors flashed red, and the smell of antiseptic mixed with iron in the air. Every second that passed was a small battle, against time, against blood loss, against panic. Eva stayed kneeling beside the K9. His chest rose and fell unevenly, but he was still alive, still trusting her, for now. Outside, the lieutenant commander paced, glancing repeatedly at his tablet. "We've lost 5 minutes already," he muttered. "If she can't stabilize him, sedation is mandatory." The vet swallowed hard. "Mandatory," he echoed, but his eyes flicked to Eva. He had seen the dog's reaction. He knew she was doing something no one else could. The K9's body tensed as a nurse moved to fetch the suction line. He growled low, warningly, but didn't snap. Eva murmured something under her breath, a soft, clipped phrase. A word, really stripped of any warmth, yet carrying an invisible command. The dog's growl ceased. Muscles relaxed fractionally. Not completely, but enough. Someone whispered, "How does she know what to say?" Eva didn't answer. She didn't have time. She leaned closer, scanning his eyes for the smallest signal. A flick of an ear, the slightest tilt of his head. Every micro-movement mattered. She adjusted the angle of his injured leg, letting him bear the weight in a way that wouldn't stress his heart or worsen the wound. Minutes later, another nurse attempted to lift the gurney slightly for better access. The K9 shifted abruptly, lips curling, teeth bared. Panic rippled through the room. "Step back," someone shouted. "He'll bite." Eva's hand rose, steady and open. A single phrase, soft and measured, rolled off her tongue. The dog froze. Not tense, not ready to strike. Frozen, his eyes locked on hers. The room went silent, save for the faint hum of machines. "What is she doing?" the lieutenant commander whispered to the vet. I don't know," the vet said, voice trembling. "It's like he recognizes her, like he trusts her." Trust. The word echoed in Eva's head. Trust wasn't given lightly, especially not after loss. She had seen that in the field. Companions lost, bonds shattered, grief that could snap even the most disciplined soldier or canine. The K9 twitched, sensing movement from the doorway. The senior physician, frustrated, moved toward Eva. "We don't have time for this," she shouted. "Sedate him now or we lose the leg." The dog reacted instantly, growl low, chest vibrating. Eva held her ground. Calmly, she whispered a short string of syllables, nothing anyone else could understand. The dog's body slackened slightly, allowing the physician to step back without provoking a bite. A few nurses glanced at each other, fear mixed with awe. "You've seen this before," one whispered. Eva didn't respond. She remembered every field operation, every code, every dog trained alongside human soldiers. The rhythm of command and obedience was ingrained in her muscle memory. Every subtle shift mattered. Every breath counted. And here, in this sterile, fluorescent litter, it mattered even more. Minutes passed like hours. Blood loss continued. Pressure held, then slipped. The K9's breathing hitched. The monitor beeped an uneven rhythm. "Nothing's working," someone cried. "We're going to lose him." Eva's eyes narrowed. Not panic. Not despair. Focus. She leaned closer, pressing her hand lightly against the dog's shoulder, feeling the tiny shivers ripple beneath fur and skin. Her voice dropped again, softer, almost a whisper meant for ears that could hear beyond humans. The dog's lips curled, but he didn't snap. His eyes flicked toward her, a silent question. Eva answered without words. She adjusted his posture subtly, pressing her knee as a gentle anchor. "I've got you," she murmured. The lieutenant commander stepped forward. "Who gave you the authority to?" Eva interrupted, voice calm but firm. "You want him alive, or not?" The question stopped the room. Even the vet paused mid-motion. The commander hesitated, then stepped back. "Proceed," he said, voice clipped. The K9 shifted slightly toward Eva, pressing his head into her shoulder. Her hand followed the contour of his neck, thumb tracing a familiar line along muscle and fur. She felt it, the subtle rhythm, the heartbeat beneath stress, the tension in his hind legs from shrapnel. Every detail mattered. Outside, the fluorescent lights flickered for a moment. A nurse knocked over a tray. Metal clattered to tile. The K9 stiffened, growled low. Eva whispered again. Instant stillness. Muscles relaxed, heartbeat slowing. "Who trained you?" the lieutenant commander asked quietly, not expecting an answer. Eva's jaw tightened. She didn't look up. "I worked with them," she said. Simple enough. The room didn't understand yet, but the dog did. Minutes later, the vet leaned close. "We need imaging." Can he tolerate it? Eva considered the risk. The dog's eyes flicked toward her. Silent trust. She nodded. Yes, but on his terms. A stretcher moved too close. The canine's ears flattened. Eva's hand shot up, stopping the nurse. Back, she said softly. No sudden movements. The canine relaxed, allowing the machine to be positioned. The imaging began. Every step was a negotiation, every movement a conversation, every phrase a lifeline. As the scans flickered on, revealing jagged shadows of shrapnel embedded in muscle, Eva's heart sank. It was worse than she feared, but it was survivable. If she could guide him, hold him through this, he could make it. A cold authority stepped into the doorway. An older officer, higher rank, surveying the chaos. The canine tensed again, muscles coiled, growl vibrating low in his chest. Eva whispered a short, familiar code. He froze instantly, shifting just enough to show he would not lunge. The officer's eyes narrowed at her. Who is she? No one answered. Eva leaned closer, hand steady, voice calm. We can do this. We'll get through it. The canine exhaled slowly. Not relief, not calm, but trust. For the first time that night, the room felt it too. Control had returned, but only barely. The tension lingered like a coiled spring. And Eva knew that the real test, the true reckoning of what she could do, and what she had buried, was coming next. Because saving him was one thing. Facing the past that came with him, that was something else entirely. The monitors beeped erratically. Blood pressure dipped again. The canine's breathing came in shallow bursts, muscles tense, every instinct screaming that danger was near. But this time, Eva didn't hesitate. She had no fear, only precision, only focus. Years of muscle memory, field drills, and silent commands she had buried in civilian life now surged forward like a tide she could not stop. She had trained dogs like him before. Not just to obey, but to think, to anticipate, to survive. A flashback hit her. Dust swirling around a ruined courtyard in Afghanistan, the howl of an injured soldier echoing, a dog lunging into a hail of shrapnel without question. She had been the medic. The lifeline. Hands moving fast, heart pounding, every breath a negotiation between life and death. She remembered the weight of responsibility pressing down on her like armor. And now, here it was again. Eva, the lieutenant commander's voice cracked through the This is your last chance, if he goes down. She didn't answer, she couldn't. The dog whined softly, sensing the tension in her. His eyes flicked to her, then back at the nearest nurse attempting to adjust an IV. She whispered again, a string of syllables only he recognized. His lips curled, not aggressively, but in cautious acknowledgement. It was time. Eva moved deliberately. Every hand, every tool, every movement was calculated. She repositioned his injured leg, checked for subtle shifts in muscle tension, adjusted his breathing, guided his head with a touch only someone who had earned his trust could give. He obeyed, not blindly, but with understanding. Another flashback. She remembered the day she helped write the fallback protocol, a series of codes and phrases designed for the unimaginable. What if a handler fell? What if the dog refused everyone else? The 6 words. The short phrases. Each one drilled into muscle and memory, meant to transcend panic, meant to reach the soul of a soldier in fur. She leaned close and spoke them softly. 6 words. Then a pause. Then 3 more. Instantly, the canine froze, muscles coiling, but not to strike, to listen, to trust. The seemed to disappear. There were no alarms, no shouting, no flashing monitors. Only her, the dog, and a rhythm older than the hospital walls. She rotated him slightly, pressed against the wound with precise pressure, stabilized his leg. Every action was a dialogue. Every breath, a command. The vet stepped back, mouth open. He's following her, he whispered, like a handler. Eva didn't answer. She couldn't. She had trained too long, too hard, and survived too much to let the moment slip. Her hands moved like instruments, not just treating injury but reading the dog's entire history through tension, breathing, and instinct. Another flashback. Smoke filled the air, sand cutting across her face. She had worked in teams where seconds decided life or death, where hesitation was fatal. Every word, every gesture had consequences. That knowledge was embedded in her fingers, in her eyes. The K9 let out a soft whine, not of fear, not of pain, but acknowledgement. He understood she was in control, and that trust had not been broken. Suddenly, the door to the opened wider. Another officer stepped in, higher rank, authority radiating without speech. His eyes swept the room, landing on the dog. The K9 stiffened. Growl deep in his chest. Protective, unyielding. Eva leaned in. A whisper. A short, clipped command. The dog froze, ears flicked, tension dissolved into a calculated alertness. The officer blinked. Impossible, he muttered. How does she? She didn't answer, she just worked. Blood pressure stabilized. Breathing eased. Monitors stopped screaming. The K9 shifted slightly, resting against her as if nothing in the world could threaten them now. Eva's jaw tightened. She had done this hundreds of times before, but never with stakes so personal. This dog was more than an assignment. He was a link to the past. A reminder of every friend she hadn't saved, every mission she'd walked away from, every secret buried beneath civilian life. The lieutenant commander stepped forward, hesitantly. You were the field medic, the author of the K9 protocols. Why weren't you assigned here? Eva finally looked up, calm but unflinching. Because I left, she said simply. I walked away. Walked away? The commander echoed, disbelief clear in his tone. You saved lives there? Why hide now? I'm here to save him, Eva said, voice steady. Not for accolades, not for recognition, for him. The K9 rested his head on her lap, breathing slow and measured. She traced her fingers along his fur, whispering the 6 words again. Not a command, but a promise. I'm here. Silence filled the Doctors, nurses, MPs, even the officers, all frozen, witnessing a quiet hero in full force. Not because of weapons or combat training. Not because of authority. But because someone had mastered trust, timing, and connection to something beyond fear. Keep monitoring, Eva said softly, standing finally. He's stable, but fragile, handle with care. The room exhaled collectively. The lieutenant commander stepped forward, jaw tight. We underestimated you. Eva smiled faintly. That's why no one ever knows until it matters. The K9 shifted, sniffed the air, then turned his gaze back to her. No commands needed. No words, mutual understanding, survival, trust. Tonight, she had revealed who she really was, not through boastful claims, not through medals or titles, but through action, calm, and connection. And in that moment, everyone understood, she wasn't a rookie nurse, she was a hidden hero. The storm had passed, but the echoes remained, and for Eva, the real test wasn't done. Not until this soldier, furred and fierce, trusted the world again. The was quiet now, the chaos dissipated like smoke after a fire. Machines hummed, monitors beeped steadily, and the wounded K9 lay stabilized, head resting lightly on Eva's lap. She hadn't moved. She didn't need to. He trusted her. That alone was victory. The lieutenant commander and the senior officers lingered at the doorway, watching silently. Respect, awe, and something unspoken hung in the air. They had witnessed a miracle. Not through science alone, but through patience, knowledge, and bond. Eva finally stood, brushing her scrubs clean, hand lingering on the dog's shoulder. He shifted, leaning into her palm, and exhaled slowly. No panic, no fear, just trust. The commander stepped closer, voice low but firm. Eva, I need to know, why didn't we know about you sooner? She shook her head lightly. Because I wasn't supposed to be here, I walked away. I thought leaving was the only way to survive the past. He studied her, eyes softening. You didn't just save a dog tonight. You reminded us all what real courage looks like. Eva let out a small breath, shoulders relaxing slightly. The weight she had carried, the secrecy, the memories, the guilt of missions left behind, was still there. But for the first time in a long time, she felt a fraction lighter. She had done the impossible. She had saved him. The K9 stirred, lifting his head to meet her eyes. Eva knelt again, fingers running through his fur. We did it, she whispered. Not I did it, but we. Because every action, every heartbeat, every moment of patience had been a shared battle. A nurse peeked in quietly. He's ready to move to recovery, she said softly. Eva nodded, gently guiding him to the gurney. The K9 didn't resist. Not even slightly. He followed her, eyes never leaving hers, a silent acknowledgement of the bond they shared. The officers stepped back as she wheeled him toward recovery. The lieutenant commander's gaze lingered, a rare smile tugging at his lips. Some heroes don't need uniforms to command respect, he said quietly to the vet. Eva paused at the recovery room entrance. She looked back once, at the that had doubted her just hours ago. She gave a small nod to the room, not to anyone in particular, but to the quiet triumph of trust, skill, and courage. Inside the recovery room, the dog settled fully onto the bed. Eva remained at his side, hand on his shoulder, whispering softly. "You're safe, I'm not going anywhere." He thumped his tail lightly against the mattress, a small, simple gesture, but for Eva, it carried weight far beyond words. Trust earned. Fear replaced. A bond that would never be broken. The morning light filtered through high windows, painting the room in soft gold. It felt ordinary, peaceful even, but Eva knew better. Every mission, every code, every moment that had led her here mattered. The world outside would never know the storm she had tamed, but that didn't matter. Quiet heroes never sought recognition, they sought only to do what needed to be done. A soft chime from the nurse's station broke the stillness. A message blinked on a monitor, official reassignment requests, forms, and protocol updates. Eva glanced at the screen, then back at the dog. She didn't need the papers to know what had changed. The moment had already settled in both their hearts. She was here to stay, and he would follow her, willingly, without fear, without question. The lieutenant commander stepped inside, finally, standing beside her quietly. "You've done what we thought impossible," he said. "You've reminded everyone here that the measure of a hero isn't the uniform they wear, it's the courage in their heart, and the bonds they honor." Eva offered a faint smile. "It's not about me. It's never about me. It's about saving them, trusting them, being there when no one else can." The K9 lifted his head, resting his chin lightly on her knee, eyes softening with the understanding only they shared. Eva whispered the 6 words once more, a gentle promise, not a command. "I'm here." Outside, the world carried on, unaware of the storm that had passed within these walls. Inside, a soldier, furred and fierce, had been saved. A bond had been restored. And a quiet hero had reminded the world that sometimes, the most extraordinary courage comes in ordinary forms. Eva leaned back, allowing herself a moment to breathe. The dog exhaled alongside her, steady, calm. 2 survivors of countless battles, connected by trust, resilience, and unwavering loyalty. And in that quiet, golden light, one truth lingered, stronger than any orders, louder than any alarms. True heroes don't ask to be seen. They only act, and leave a mark that cannot be erased. The room hummed with life, but Eva and the K9 sat in a bubble of peace, a silent testament to everything that mattered. And for the first time in a long time, she felt that the past, though never forgotten, had finally led her exactly where she needed to be.